that we ate while we were with the repeat.
Okay, we are back in Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs on Wednesday, February 21st, taking up proposal 3, right to organize and collectively bargain. And we have Larry Moquin in the chair, who is from Laborers, and Laborers has been a huge part of getting this off the ground. So we want to thank you, and you can take it away. And I know you have some of your members here as well.
And thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Larry Moquin. I'm the field supervisor for Local 668 of the Laborers International Union of North America. My local jurisdiction covers all of Vermont and a portion of New Hampshire. I also serve as the vice president of the Vermont Building and Construction Trades Council. I grew up in Winooski, and my family has been in Vermont for over 5 generations. I'm here on behalf of the Vermont Building Trades and our over 3,000 members supporting Proposal 3. We hope the committee will advance the proposal to the full Senate. I'd like to thank you for allowing me the time to discuss the importance of passing Proposal 3. This amendment will protect our strong labor laws, Vermont workers, and the rights they currently enjoy for generations to come. Vermont is a place where we care about each other. We care about helping the underprivileged, the underrepresented, the uninsured, the underemployed, and all the people without a voice. We care about our children's education, reproductive freedoms, LGBTQ+ rights, the climates, our neighbors, and being good to each other. Vermont is great, and a lot of it has to do with the laws in place. Now we can be the second state in the country to enshrine workers' rights into their constitution, following Illinois, which did so in 2022. Proposal 3 is important because it would outlaw so-called right-to-work laws from ever being introduced in Vermont. Right to work was an idea from a law originated in the 1940s to try to maintain Jim Crow in the South. The idea was pushed by a corporate lobbyist named Vance Muse, who was a known white supremacist, anti-Semite, and anti-unionist from Texas. Muse and others claimed the CIO was sending labor organizers to the rural South to agitate a contented but gullible African-American population and force white workers to join union with black workers and call them brother. This definitely is not a Vermont value. But 9 states have actually enshrined right to work into their constitutions. They are Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Kansas, Mississippi, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. To show the impacts of right to work laws on workers in these states, I compared data about minimum wages, unemployment benefits, uninsured population, infant mortality rates, poverty rates, and education rates for these states with Vermont. I'm not surprised by our findings. I summarized them and we'll go through them very quickly. In minimum wage, 5 of the 9 states pay the federal minimum wage of $7.25, and 8 of the 9 states minimum wage is less than Vermont. For unemployment, 9 out of 9 states benefit is less than Vermont, with 5 of them being under $320 a week, the lowest being Mississippi with $235 a week. 4 of the 9 states actually only allow 20 weeks or less for benefits. Florida being the worst, that only allows 12. And food for thought, they'll give 12 weeks of unemployment, and their abortion ban is 15 weeks. So it's just food for thought. Uninsured population. Vermont has an uninsured population of 3.7%. Of the 9 right to work states mentioned, Nebraska has the lowest with 7.1% uninsured, and Oklahoma has the highest with 13.8% uninsured. The 11 states in the country with the highest uninsured populations all have right to work laws on the books. Infant mortality rate. Vermont ranks #1 with an infant mortality rate of less than 1%. The 9 states we compared have rates from as low as 5.47 in Arizona to a staggering high of 9.39% in Mississippi. These numbers are based on number of infant deaths per 1,000 live births. So in Mississippi, 94 babies out of 1,000 are dying. Poverty rates. 9 out of 9 states have a higher poverty rate than Vermont. Vermont stands at 10.3 poverty rate, while Nebraska again has the lowest poverty rate of the 9 at 10.8, and Mississippi again has the highest poverty rate at 19.4%. Most educated states, Vermont currently ranks number 2 nationally behind Massachusetts as the most educated state in the country. Of the 9 states, Florida is the highest ranked in education at 21, Kansas at 23, Nebraska at 24, Arizona at 36, Tennessee at 39, Alabama 45, Oklahoma 46, Arkansas 47, Mississippi 49th, and the only one that is worse, another right to work state, West Virginia.
Bro.
8 out of the top 10 states with the highest workplace fatality rates are right to work states. These statistics shed light on the fact that when workers' rights and collective bargaining rights are attacked, the consequences can be far worse than just the economic impact on the worker. The Vermont Building Trades hopes that this will pass out of your committee unanimously on its way to the full Senate. Our organization membership, much like the state of Vermont, is made up of people from across the political spectrum. In many ways, Vermont is somewhat of a conservative state in the traditional meaning of the word conservative. We value our rights and we value our freedoms. We believe that we all deserve the opportunity to succeed and live our lives in a manner that we choose. The workplace is no different. Vermont workers deserve the right to organize and be protected when they choose to join together and do so. We have a chance to be a model for the Northeast when it comes to how workers should be treated and respected. This could actually be a beautiful recruitment tool for the state too. We need more workers. Let's show the workers that they should come to Vermont because we care about our workers, the rights they have, and the rights they'll continue to have. We, the workers of Vermont, ask the committee to let us decide the future. We ask you to send Proposal 3 to the full Senate, taking the first step towards sending this constitutional amendment to the people. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Did you send your testimony?
I have a copy for all of you
But did you send it electronically to
tonight.
Macaulay?
tonight when I go.
Good, because it's
So has
fabulous.
Yes, whoever, if this gets to the floor, whoever reports it, I think, we're on a far right from your notes. Yeah,
Of the other states is just so great.
well said. I don't think, yeah, I didn't hear any questions. Senator Harrison, do you, we did start to talk about right to work states, and I know that you are interested in that conversation.
Yes, I am interested, and I sent just this morning a news article on what's happening in Florida, but I'd like to discuss that at another date if we are going to be continuing this discussion.
Yes, we have 2 weeks. So
Okay.
yes,
Perfect.
The stats on right to work states is really falling.
right, yeah.
Right,
So,
and Florida's
You're
just doing
beloved.
things to make it even more challenging.
Yes.
thank you. Thank you, Larry. Do
Thanks,
any of
Larry.
your other members who came on and say anything?
You guys can.
No, I just want, I mean, for me,
Just
you say
introduce
your name?
yourself.
Christopher Tedford, I'm with the Bricklayers and Allied Craft Workers, Local 2, New York, Vermont. I didn't come to testify, just support.
Great.
But I just want to say thank you for your consideration and taking this up and taking it seriously. My connection to Vermont, I've been Green Mountain Boy, Vermont Air National Guard for
Thank you.
15 years. I live in the Plattsburgh area, represent 26 counties in New York, and just had to state of Vermont. I'm an organizer. But yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself and say thank you. I actually, if you remember, we played golf together.
Yes. Mine too. Mike, you think?
Yeah.
Oh, at the Senate.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
like, when were you playing golf? I forgot.
Well,
Great putter.
I turned out to be a decent player.
Yeah, you did.
But you guys were great supporters, so
Yeah.
we were.
No, but I just want to say
Yeah.
thank you when, you know,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
My name's Alex Podman. I'm here with the building trades and I'm the organizer and business agent for Local 693, the plumbers and pipe fitters here in Vermont. And I'm just here again, not to testify, but just to show support and listening on what everybody has to say.
Yeah,
And I appreciate you all hearing us out.
absolutely. We need infrastructure, we need the building trade, so
No,
let's be as supportive as we can.
Good team.
Yes, we need housing.
Yes, well, and our other failures are sort of following on the heels of our passing of the housing bill. Where all your trades and professions are, we depend on completely. So, we're an able full people.
You must be Kim, is it Hokinson? I don't.
Hokinson, yeah.
Hokinson,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, we're missing the N then.
Yeah.
Okay. We should just have-
Anyway, thank you for coming today. It's great to see you again.
Okay.
So I'm with the Carpenters.
Yes.
Not
great,
part of the building
great
trades,
segue,
but
yeah.
we are partners in trade. So
Wonderful. You are partners in creating
Isn't
glorious living space.
and I have copies for everyone, and I can send it electronically.
That would be great,
Yes.
because anything electronic, if you guys have anything additionally electronically that's sent to Magali would be great.
Thanks. Well, Jim, Sam Hinsdale, and the members of the committee. My name is Kim Hokinson. I am here speaking to all of you as the Northern New England Regional Manager of the North Atlantic States Regional Council of Partners. I am joined here today by some of our council members who reside here in Vermont. You will hear
Could
testimony.
they just wave or something?
Yeah, you'll hear testimony from
Oh,
Jean.
great.
Jean
Okay.
Goodwin.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
You make sure.
I got the, yeah, we've got them all around. Jean Goodwin was here, Christopher Carr, who's sitting behind me, and Charles Russell, all Vermont residents and members of our teams here in Vermont. I'll be reading a letter that was submitted from our EST, Joseph Byrne,
Okay.
and I'll read it on behalf of him. So on behalf of all Vermont members and on behalf of more than 30,000 members of the North Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, I am here to request your support for the passage of PR3, a constitutional amendment to guarantee Vermont workers the rights to collectively bargain. Since the founding of our nation, the people of Vermont have led efforts to establish and preserve our nation's fundamental freedoms, advancing equity and protecting the rights of all working people. We encourage you to continue this tradition of leadership by becoming the second state in the nation to pass this important legislation that would enshrine workers' rights into the state's constitution. While all workers in Vermont currently have the right to organize, these rights are under attack in the Washington and in state capitals across the nation by well-funded corporate special interests. In addition, for the last decade, the Supreme Court has been increasingly hostile to organized workers by establishing right to work for all public sector employees, the Janus, which was spoken about before, undermining the right to organizing by restricting right to access employees to their work sites, and are poised to potentially undermine unions' right to strike. In neighboring New Hampshire, as we talked about a little bit there, well-funded corporate special interest groups have pushed the so-called right to work laws that have passed with significantly lower wages, make job sites less safe, and pocketing rates higher. While public support for unions is at a 60-year high, union membership has declined dramatically over the last 40 years in Vermont and around the country because of these relentless attacks. We see these impacts of a decline in Vermont, especially in the construction sector, that has seen a degradation of wages, working conditions, as unionization rates have fallen accordingly to the recent study, from the Century Foundation. Vermont has one of the highest rates of construction worker visit classifications in the nation, which is probably very surprising, I think, to hear in this room. This means that thousands of workers are not paid fair wages. They don't have access to employer health or pension benefits, as well as not being a part of the state workers' compensation system. This hurts all of Vermont citizens because it drives down wages, increases poverty, and overburdens the state safety net programs.
I'll just say, I don't know if anybody else wants to speak. We know we have this problem with misclassification. It's come up quite a bit. I don't think, maybe I didn't know that we had one of the higher rates of misclassification, and we're still very open to trying to solve this problem. It's gotten stuck so many.
It's gotten stuck because we've addressed it in this, we had a very strong labor chair also before occasion, so we have addressed this and not first day, but.
It's okay.
Yeah, we haven't gotten it through. So,
But thank you for raising it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure to set, I have the press release for all you Sun Foundation's study as well as, I have one hard copy, but I'd be happy to share the link, the copy for everyone. I find out where it was, sorry. I think-
Sorry.
No, you're good. We believe that it's time to now to codify the labor rights in Vermont workers by passing PR 3, a constitutional amendment to guarantee workers, Vermont workers' right to collectively bargain and protect Vermont workers from any erosion of rights that may come with national political change. We also encourage you to continue to work to pass legislation that makes it easier for workers to organize and join unions. We thank you all, obviously, for your public service and for your consideration of our union's request to support this important legislation.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam.
Larry, you said you had copies of your testimony. Do you think kind enough to share them with us? If you have some.
Yeah, we'll take anybody's paper copy
Yeah.
if there's.
Because Randy was there.
Oh, that's all one thing, okay. And you can always, if you have an extra one, you can leave it on this.
Really, it's going about rights and difference of.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks, Larry.
There
you go.
And then you said one on Sunday, guys.
Yeah, they're two different things. One's a press release. Yeah, all right, thank you.
So I probably, could have asked this to a lot of our building trade folks that, and you made me think of it, Kim, and maybe you can help answer it, but we, in our committee, have to think about retirement in the building trades and carpentry and, the fact that we don't have a lot of folks to replace our workforce in those really critical areas. And so, Jean, perhaps you could speak to that, how unions help give people an entry point into the trades. So we have, skilled tradespeople well into the future.
And we have
Sure,
a robust apprenticeship program.
and right, and that's part of it is it's going, for future generations. By the way, I'm Jean Goodwin. I am a proud member, 42-year member of the
Wow.
United Brotherhood of Carpenters Union.
Thank you for all that service.
Thank you.
Massachusetts girl by birth.
White gave it away. But I came to Vermont as fast as I could, and I'm now a resident here. And I live in beautiful Hubbardton, Vermont,
Oh,
on Lake Arconia. So basically living the dream.
yeah.
And my story, I'm much more comfortable swinging a hammer, so speaking is not number one for me, but it's okay. But my story is that I became a union carpenter in 1982 during affirmative action. Women and minorities were being introduced, we're all right. This is another part of the human race. Into the construction industry, and I stuck it out. There were good times, bad times, like any business, and like I said, I still pay my dues. I'm still a member, 42 years. I retired 8 years ago. I've been living in Vermont basically off and on for that 8 years, but permanently about 6 years. And that employment afforded me that. And that dream that I didn't know I had until I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
Because I was protected with the union with fair wages. I made the same amount of money as the person next to me. Didn't matter what gender or, we make the same amount of money. We're protected with insurance. We have a pension and an annuity that I couldn't have even dreamed of saving that.
Right.
The benefits are just enormous for someone who, it doesn't have like a financial future thinking. Because of that, I was able to build my own house. I didn't have to hire a contractor.
I was gonna ask, okay.
But you could have probably done that with your skills independent of the union.
But
You probably could have done that with your own skills independent of the union, built your own house.
maybe, but because of the training in the union, like I had worked some non-union carpentry work at about $6 an hour with no protections. I was misclassified. So when my taxes came in at the end of the year as a subcontractor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? So anyway, being in the union and getting that training I wasn't already, I wasn't even allowed to take shop in high school.
Wow.
So I had no background. I didn't even know how to hold a skill saw when I joined the union. And I learned most of my carpentry on the job training. Now we have schools and training centers.
Ew.
You know, we have assistance programs. The union does not, you know, kick someone to the curb because they have a problem. They help them. And they help them get over that problem and continue to be a, you know, a contributing member of society. And that's my part of this is, you know, my testimony is, you know, the product of being in a union and having someone have my back and paying my dues. And I will continue to pay my dues, even though I'm not a working member, because I believe in it. You know, and I want to see it succeed. I'd like to see this bill succeed because there's daughters and sons and granddaughters and grandsons and babies being born every day that need opportunity. And if they can see it, they can be it too. And that's my story is, you know, I'm not a politician. I don't, my dues.
Neither of any of us.
But people to, you know, talk the big talk and negotiate these contracts. I could never negotiate a contract. But I do get the benefit of it and I worked hard. I earned it. I'm not lucky. I earned it and I'm a living example of that. Thank you for your time.
Well,
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Anyone
Well,
has any
not from
questions?
anybody else, but when people come in and say, I'm not used to this and I'm not a good speaker, they usually really catch everybody. Have a big impact, so thank you. And it's,
And like you said, it that the confidence and the independence to be able to sit in front of a committee
Yeah.
and people, you know, it comes from that, you know, 30 years, I retired with, I was the first woman in my local to get a 30-year pension. And I started when women were few. So if anyone has any questions, and I'll even answer later too. I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I'm happy to talk about it.
I wanna see a picture of your dream house at some point.
Yeah. Well, I drive through Hubbardton all the time, so maybe I'll stop.
Hey, and if you're ever at Ralph Meyer, I work there. It's my retirement job hobby because I love it. It's not like a job. I mow the lawns and let's play
Is this at
around.
the historic site? No,
Pardon me?
is this at the Hubbardton Historic Site?
This is, no, the Ralph Meyer Golf Course.
So you get to ride like the mower and
Yeah, yeah.
you have found the dream. This is.
I have, and you know, honestly, I never knew I would have this dream and so now here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I always loved to fish. I used to love to throw the little John boat in the back of the truck and find a pond in Massachusetts. And believe me, it wasn't all that easy. You had to drive. But now I live on a lake. I just walk down the hill and go fishing anytime I want.
That's lovely.
Well,
That's nice.
Well, it's a wonderful sort of experiential note to end on. I know we have David who's happy to answer questions.
Mhm.
Does anyone else around the room, I'm looking at your colleagues behind you who've been sitting here patiently listening. Does anybody else want to say anything?
I'd
Go
throw
ahead,
one
Senator
thing in.
yeah,
Because we've been
just
talking,
identify yourself.
Charles Russell, United Brotherhood of Carpenters. I came to support my sister brothers here, but we talk about the rights of the workers, and that's all good and everything, but also this benefits the non-union workers too when we have a union employee doing the work. If a union person works on this building, his contract or her contract negotiated their health insurance. If a non-union person does on it, our tax pay for their health
Yes.
insurance.
Right.
So it's also a economic benefit to everyone in the state to have those things done union.
Mhm. And you're here in Vermont,
I am. I'm
Yeah.
at Cabot.
Cabot.
Yeah.
I'd like to comment on that. It's my brother over there. Michael Rossi with Roofers again. I started non-union and I
Me
went
too.
to college to be a police officer. I got a law degree in criminal justice, 2 years associate's degree, right? But I seen how hard it was to be a state trooper or a police officer. It wasn't easy back in the 90s. My friends were roofing. I don't know,
they started roofing to a residential for like what my brother just said. I wasn't interested in doing that for $6 an hour. But then 3 years later, when they were telling me to make it 40, I didn't know what prevailing wage was. Unions got the prevailing wages, whether you're union or not.
Right.
So that's what got me into this craft, because I wanted to make $40 an hour back in 1998. And even though I didn't know what I was doing, I wasn't properly trained, like my sister just said, I still did the best I could because I wanted to keep making that check.
Yeah.
And then 4 years later, when I realized I wasn't gonna have a pension, I didn't have health care, that if I'm gonna do this the rest of my life, I gotta have protection somehow. And that's when I joined the union. And all those things the non-union always said to me about how bad it is and it's the dark side, this and that. Well, how come I've been here 20 years, including a lot of people I started working with? So this just not only benefits union members, it benefits all construction workers. And when Vermont is struggling to get people into our trades, no one's gonna want a roof or do carpentry for those wages that he's speaking of.
Right.
But for what we collectively bargained for, that protects all construction workers, even if you're union or not, they're gonna wanna work for our $60 total package, or maybe someday realize, you know what? I don't have a pension or healthcare, I don't have protections, maybe it's time I join a union. It's how important these, rights are, and they've been taken away. And if you ever Google Scott Walker, Wisconsin, you can see what he did to Wisconsin, and to this day, they're repealing prevailing wages. And now jobs aren't getting done on time under budget. The skill set went down tremendously. It's a big deal when, if you use that unionization that Vermont is, it's a unionized state, it's not a right to work state.
Right.
But if we were to lose that, you're gonna look, it's a hard uphill battle to get it back.
Oh, it's there.
Yeah. Sounds like a coffee found you again, but thank you.
Yeah,
So this is, and of course, yeah, also not only for this proposition 3, proposal 3, but for our workforce development bill, which is coming to us from the House. We've invested a lot in supporting apprenticeships and internships, and in particular in the construction trades. Last year, the year before, I can't remember when we put in 15 million through our CTEs in training for all the construction trades through our CTE centers. And so we are right with you and very grateful.
We were talking about it, is having those courses in the middle schools, the high schools.
Oh, they have to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Interestingly enough, if we were a strong union state, the state wouldn't have had to invest any money into any of this because we paid to train our members.
Which is how we appreciate the apprenticeship programs, because you're working on the job, you're doing,
Right, our members pay to train
right.
the next members.
Yeah, that's what.
Right.
We just need more apprentices, which will work.
Anyone else want to say anything? I don't want to put you on the spot. So you look pretty comfortable.
I think everyone said it pretty well. I couldn't add anything more.
Great.
I think Gene did a great job.
Yeah.
Gene,
Right.
rocking.
I
Yeah.
did very well.
It's another retirement job.
well, it's funny, you gotta stay busy. You gotta stay busy, so if you can find something else that you love and, just enjoy it, just enjoy life. That's the thing about the union, you get in early, the benefits are so good that it provides you with a future without you even knowing it. And as you take steps along the way. And when I was 25, I had been in for a year or so, and talking to the guys on the job would sit around, at lunch and, do the math. If you keep putting into your annuity, and say you retire at 55, you started young and then worked our way up, you're gonna have $500,000 based on the math and the progression of wages and the progression of the amount that goes in and all that. It's like 25 years old, 60 years old, $500,000?
Right.
Sounds like a good option.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're someone that doesn't necessarily, who thinks of that?
Right.
Maybe in this day, people do, kids do, because of the internet, because You know, it's a lot, you can talk about a lot more things and you can find things that you couldn't find back in the day.
You'd be surprised, you know, I think having someone looking out for you when you make that decision,
Right,
really long-term integrity in your interest.
right, and opportunity.
Yeah,
And I retired at 58 years old
wow.
Whoa,
with a 30-year pension.
I think Jean should be the.
You are big.
spokesperson
I'm gonna retire at
when it
52.
I'm not 58 anymore.
I'll have 30 years
And
in the
what-
state when I'm 52. I have 6 years left and I'll retire with a full pension.
Well, there you go. And it's
And then I'll run
not,
for governor.
and you don't necessarily have to retire if you love it and you're still physically able and you know, construction's a hard industry.
Legislators need to unionize.
We can talk
Unionize that.
But I retired at 58, but then I spent 6 years building a house. That was, you know, it just
She
rolls
wasn't
right.
allowed to eat while she was working. Legislators have a little bit of,
That's true. I was strike.
It's all about opportunity for the generations coming forward.
Yeah.
And legislature like this provides that in a state that is progressive, and opportunity is a big word around here.
Yeah.
Oh, opportunity is a big word ever. The other thing I have to say, I've really appreciated in your testimonies, many of you have touched on how bipartisan, tripartisan this is. We have a tripartisan group of people supporting this measure and how bipartisan unions are generally. I mean, they're
Right.
just great.
The workers are for the workers and the
Yeah.
people are for the people.
It's just,
You know, everybody is sort of a union, even the legislature, you know, it's not called a union, but you get together as workers to work for workers and you do the right thing, you do the right thing for the people. And, you know, people need to understand that everybody, you pay taxes. What's the difference between taxes and dues? You're paying for the help that
It's
you
true.
need.
Maybe
going
we'll just start
forward.
talking about taxes. You have the chair of the finance.
About the privilege of paying taxes. She
Yeah.
chairs Senate Finance.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to
Yeah.
look at them, but I could live in 7 different states and not pay state taxes. But can I live on a lake, you know, in beautiful Vermont? Can I go skiing? Can I go fishing anytime I want?
Could you have
It's
a,
quality of life.
could you have a union job in any of those states?
not all.
I don't know, that's above my,
Yeah.
but they can answer that.
I know in New Hampshire.
Yeah, we don't have to go very far.
You don't have to go very far and it gets very tough.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. Well, Jean, if you keep talking, we're gonna make you the statewide spokesperson for the issue.
Anytime.
I have to leave the mower aside for a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know that David. Yeah, I think you should have that cleaned up and if we might have more.
Just to get into the witness.
Yes, I know, right?
Actually, he's progressed from standing to chair. That's a better chair.
To the, oh, I'm sorry,
That's what it is.
this has got to be. Health and welfare. Move your chair, you know,
Yes, we don't often have this one.
yeah, to do something.
Thank
We can build benches.
Yeah. Well, David should put them stuff down, but. Great option.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having this hearing. David Mickenberg here on behalf of Working Vermont and Gene Zahardak follow. So I will just say a few words. You know, I think Senator Clarkson said it. This is a proposal that's really unifying. I was so heartened to see the sponsorship, 20 senators, tripartisan sponsorship, and you can hear the sort of collective voice of wanting to stand up for working Vermonters across political spectrum. So I just want to say I'm so happy that you all are taking this up, and we'll work from here on in whatever way you need to help make sure that the language is right, that everything is correct, so we feel good about enshrining this in our Constitution as an inherent value for Vermonters. I wanted to say Working Vermont, we used to say Working Vermont represented nearly 20,000 Vermonters. Now we're up to about 27,500 with others.
Yeah, helps.
But others, Chris Doobie has organized units around the state, other members of Working Vermont, which is made up of AFT, Vermont NEA, the Vermont Troopers Association, Professional Firefighters, and VSA. And so we're seeing really a rope of support and appreciation, not just in Vermont, but as others mentioned, like we're nearly at an all-time high for support for labor unions in this country, which is really something to see. It's the first time that I've felt that level of support in this country, in the state, in all the years that I've been working on this issue. I wanted to say specifically that the Vermont Troopers Association and Vermont NEA, who were not here today, fully support this effort, and we're actually in the process of putting together a letter, and we hope to have, I mean, there's many smaller units around the state, but hoping to have, if we can, every single union in the state of Vermont supporting this work. And we're starting to see businesses that are acknowledging the value of labor unions. It was mentioned Ben & Jerry's Scoop Shop in downtown Burlington, the voluntary recognition of that, I think, is a recognition that when people are allowed to sit at the table and discuss the conditions of their work, that it benefits everyone, not just the workers, but those that are employing workers. So just so happy to be here and happy to continue this conversation. And thank you. Looking forward, as others have said, hopefully we can come out of this committee. We're hoping for unanimous support and be as strong as we can on the floor as we move this really to the voters. I mean, ultimately, this is about letting the voters of Vermont decide how they feel about this. And we feel really confident that when it's in front of the voters, that they will, like they did with reproductive freedoms, other issues, enshrine this sort of fundamental right into our Constitution.
So I think what's the only discouraging thing is that as we listen to all this, just as it was with our last constitutional amendment, is that we sometimes don't value things until they're taken away from us, and that it is heartbreaking that we can't value things when they're in front of us. We have, that they're being denied is a call to action, which is a little heartbreaking. But there we are. It is, if it turns out to be that we end up with this as an amendment to our Constitution, that's not a bad thing. But it is sad that we have to go through.
Yeah,
I think we need to be reminded every generation, and when we were talking about misclassification, as a geriatric millennial, I think millennials were really kind of swindled by the gig economy, and you have freedom, you can move around, you don't need to be tied to anything. And you saw Gen Z come back with a vengeance and say, like, there's no security here, there's no voice, there's no recognition. And I think that's part of the reason you see unions repopularizing.
Yeah.
So I hope we do take up misclassification. I hope this just gives us more courage to do more.
Yeah. I mean, we saw, to your point, Senator, we saw the state of Michigan, I think this past year, reverse right to work in Michigan after 10
Oh,
plus
that's the other
years.
state I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
I think they reversed.
They reversed
Right.
it, yeah, and we're seeing that, around the country, people starting to really question. I mean,
Yeah.
Larry's testimony was very sobering, and to hear the statistics of how sort of
Unbelievable.
the experience of people have as workers and just citizens in right to work states. I think it's really illustrative of why this is important to make sure that Vermonters for future generations never have that experience. So
I think it'll be a lot of visibility if and when this goes to the voters as well, that, you're now talking to union folks from all over the place. Here's the great lives they've had, here's the security you could look forward to. I think it's helpful to workforce development.
absolutely.
Okay, do you need to?
I do.
Okay, Senator Harrison, did you want to say something?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I just want to say thanks to all of the folks who have provided testimony. I think it was a really good spectrum of conditions in the state, and it's completely consistent with just my experience. I was counting up. I've worked and been a supervisor and a manager in 5 states. So I completely agree that you don't appreciate things until they're gone. And I'm really glad that we're taking up this proposal, and thanks again to everyone for being here.
Thanks, Senator Harrison.
Yeah.
Any other detail-oriented questions for David? I, as chair, sort of have to think about what's next. We all do, but who should we hear from, et cetera. This was obviously just a great and diverse group of people in support of the bill. With 2 weeks, we have to be, I think, a little proactive about inviting in people who might oppose it and then return to the bigger picture. Right, that's a big
Well,
question.
let's have the
Yeah.
chamber of commerce. That's.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you talk about opposition and those that promote right to work for less. Generally, that's the Koch brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to interrogate them, but
Yeah.
We're no longer with us. One by one, those Cook brothers are disappearing.
It's some sort of.
We can think of some folks that try to help. I did want to just reinforce what Jocelyn was saying about that one language change.
Yeah.
That was
Yes.
helpful.
Yeah.
And also.
Does everyone agree on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then one clarification, what Jocelyn was saying in terms of how employees are defined, that's done by state law and federal.
Mhm.
So to your point, Senator, yeah.
if we take out that, part of the sentence, is that completely mirroring Illinois?
Right. Yeah.
Larry says verbatim. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'll just say, I think my only sadness, we tried to include agricultural workers in our PRO Act, or we did, and if we're in the House, it's just such a frustration that we then exploit immigrant labor, who, do they have union access? I mean, like, it's.
Well, that bill, we're,
Would help.
and I wanted to say
Yeah.
thank you for your work on that bill. It's important work. We spent a lot of time here talking about it.
Yeah,
And we think that in conjunction with this amendment is a really powerful statement.
Yeah.
So that bill would allow for unionization of farm workers, domestic employees.
right, yeah.
And also ban captive audience meetings
Mhm.
and provide for carbon.
And we did.
Yeah, it's in the House. We've been
Yeah.
taken up testimony.
Okay,
Good, so we're moving that.
well,
That will be coming over, understanding that's coming over after crossover back to you.
Right.
So yeah, I think it
Yeah.
really would be a powerful statement in support of Vermont workers. And to, I think Larry or somebody was saying, this is a real call. We need folks working in healthcare. We need folks working in construction. This is a call to the region to say, come to Vermont.
right,
Work here. This is a great place to be.
Yeah.
We support you as workers. We support your ability to have some say in your
Right.
future. So-
retire on a beautiful little.
And we have a lot of housing to build.
Unfortunately, they might have to build their own house.
I know, that's
That's a
the,
big
housing
problem.
isn't, of course, yeah.
Yes.
We need
Can I just
housing.
say
in this.
that,
Come build them.
when I spoke of the
Yeah.
possibility of having that kind of money in retirement, in my case, using half of it to actually build mine, it's not a get rich quick scheme being in the union. You work very hard,
Yeah,
but you earn, you earn a fair wage and health insurance, healthcare, all that.
right,
And what people just, I don't understand why I wanna knock it down when it's just an open opportunity to at least be middle class, at least live comfortably. Short of hitting the lottery, I'm never gonna be rich, but I'm rich in quality of life, like I
Yeah.
said.
yeah,
And to be able to live in a state like this and get away from the traffic and
right,
and I think sometimes it gets lost on, oh, you just want, make as much money as you can. But these are the times we just want to have a job that
Mhm.
helps our family as well. It's not even an individual thing. It's people with families,
yeah, that's a true social compact. If you work hard, you
Yep,
deserve
absolutely.
to have that quality.
The honest statement that holds true is if workers don't have a seat at the table, they're gonna be on the menu.
That's
I
right,
mean, it's as easy as that. Once you lose your seat, your voice is gone.
right,
And that's all we're trying to do is you have great laws, just let's keep them forever.
yeah, and then that's what Michael said, that, the quality of care, the quality of service, the quality of your work goes up,
Well,
because
happier.
you're a seat at the table.
Exactly, and happier workers who feel listened to and have dignity are better workers and more productive workers.
Yeah, I've never understood why it's such a radical
I
concept.
don't get it, yeah.
To be able to say, well, we're all in this together.
We just want to be able to sit down and have a voice.
Yeah, no, we
Go home safe at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right.
There's so many
Yeah.
non-union jobs that all they see is,
You just get.
you know, dollar signs at the end. They don't, the protection of safety is so important and not necessarily followed. We hold each other to a higher standard when it comes to safety and in the programs that we have in the training. And to reiterate, it's not, doesn't go back to the state. It comes from within the organization of you.
Yeah, I would say we're ready to wrap up. Dolly, I don't think anyone's proactively reached out to us otherwise to testify yet. So that's where we are. You know, I hope we can continue to take this up and move it for crossover. So any other witnesses, and I think as has been teed up so well, looking at other states where they don't have these protections is a helpful foil. So we'll continue to look into that and take anyone who wants to testify on this. But again, I don't know who will oppose this publicly.
Oh, we'll find.
That's a call to action.
They'll find you.
for some, yeah,
If you need any
Yeah.
information from Sean Stott,
that's right.
let me
who-
know. He's
Yeah,
also, we're in the same organization. He's
Right.
been very helpful to me also.
great. Yeah,
And Alan also, if you need any,
yeah, perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you all so much, and thank you for taking
Thank you.
time,
Thank you all.
you know, travel to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, thanks.